Hi everyone, this is Diane. It's time for another Stashistry. I haven't been doing much in my craft room this week. I've been getting things listed and I didn't feel well for one day. I had an attack of vertigo when I got up in the morning and I couldn't do anything that day. But I'm back in my craft room today and I have been working on getting some projects done with ledger paper because that was what I drew the last time. And I have a lot. I have 6 projects and I could have done more, and I could have done a whole video on each separate project with all the things you can do and different ways you can do the different projects. But I don't have time for that. So we're going to just look at the 6 projects and you can run with it from there and do your own, what's the word I want to say, your own take on each one. It's not what I was looking for, but we're going to go with it. But first, because I try to remember to draw the next one at the beginning of the video, because otherwise I get distracted and forget. So let's see what the next one is going to be, and that will give me some time to prepare. I don't have a specific schedule for when I do these videos, just when I have a chance, like in between journal projects. Okay, are we ready? What's next? Glass scene. Oh boy. I'm not thrilled with that one for some reason. Maybe I'm limited. I do use glass scene, but maybe I feel limited in ways I use it. So this will stretch my creativity and imagination. Let's talk a little bit about ledger paper. You can get new ledger paper and you can get vintage ledger paper. I find vintage ledger paper at flea markets. You may not be able to. You can find it online from Etsy sellers or eBay. Maybe it's kind of pricey, but you can find new ledger paper that you can use. This format I think I got some of it at a thrift store, but I have ordered some from Amazon also. So you can just go to Amazon and look for ledger paper and see what they have. I'm organizing while I'm talking. That wasn't my intention. I don't want to spend the video time organizing. So you can see I have different varieties. That's the same one, but there was a white one in here of this style of ledger paper. Oh, there's the white one. You can also get books like this. Staples has ledger and they charge a lot for their paper, I'll tell you. I won't buy them at Staples. They have a nice variety of sizes at Staples, so maybe you'd want to get it there. But I got this at a thrift store, so this is an older one, but it's got a barcode. But you can get these at Walmart, these green pads, really cheap, like $5 or less. That's what they used to be. I know prices of everything have gone up. So I love the green ledger paper. I use this a lot. And then there are the older ones that I get at flea markets. So some of them are written on, and I love the ones that are really old. This is 1937, I think. It's either 32 or 37. But look at that nice writing. And I love that writing. And I have different sizes, different ages of these. This is just a small sampling of my vintage ledger paper. This one is antique, and it was used, I got it really, really cheap because someone had, once it was all done being used as a ledger, someone had used it as a scrapbook and glued in newspaper pieces, and a lot of it just came right off. So the pieces that I could clean off pretty well, you can see still bits of it there. I love to use these because the print in this is 1825. These are awesome. And so I did use some of these for these projects today. So some of them are fragile like that. Some of them are not so fragile even though they're old. This one is German. Someone sent this to me in a Happy Mail. This is from the 1960s. And this one is really old. I don't see the date right now, and it's cheaper paper, so this would crack, but it's great for collages. And then these kinds are unused, the unused pages from those ledgers. And this one isn't as old, so I could fold that and use this however I wanted to. I could put it in as a page and whatnot. But some of them you still have to be careful with. And I even found this one still in its cover. I guess it's upside down. So these are the types of ledgers that you can look for. If you don't want to purchase ledger paper, you can get digitals with ledgers. Okay, so let's talk about the projects that I came up with. The first one is a library pocket. I want to say that, you know, a ledger paper is paper. So pretty much anything you can do with paper, you can do with ledger. You may need to reinforce it. Probably will have to reinforce it because it's not sturdy paper. So I could make a library pocket with any type of decorative paper. But today we're using ledger, and I just wanted to show you how neat they can look. There's a couple kinds of library pockets. Here's the other one. Here it is. There's this kind. Usually they're not this color. They're usually manila color. That have the taller pocket part and a very short tab at the top. And then there's this kind with the smaller pocket and then a tall piece at the top, which was sometimes used for stamping. You can see they stamped the date, and then when they ran out of room they added this paper to it. So I wanted to make some of each. So obviously you're going to need to reinforce ledger paper if you're going to make a pocket out of it because it's too thin and fragile. This is the first one I did, and I used that antique one that was used as a scrapbook after it was a ledger, and I glued the pieces onto this is cardstock, and this one, it's not cardstock. I think it's just a plain piece of copy paper, or it was a scrap of scrapbook paper. It makes it sturdy enough to be a pocket. I didn't want it to be heavy cardstock because I wanted to fold it around. And then I took a vintage library pocket or card and inked around it and just added some antique lace and a little vintage stamp. So we're going to do one of those. I also wanted to, I kept this in a vintage mode. I also want to say that if you're using antique ledger that is written on, you don't want to embellish it much. Just very little or even no embellishments so that you don't cover up the wonderful writing on these. This one is made with the green modern ledger, so I can embellish this as much as I want to because it's not precious. So let me show you what I did. I think I have one here to do. I don't even remember. It's been days since I prepped this part of the video. Oh, I think this is, that is the back part. So these pieces I glued onto a book page to make it sturdier. Well, you can see, I measured the components of this, and I cut the backing piece 4.5 by 3.5. That was the size of this. And then I measured this part, and then I added some to the width and to the bottom so I could fold it. And I just wrote those measurements down and worked with that. So I cut them out of the ledger paper and then glued the ledger pieces to book page and then cut it out again. Because you could cut it out of both pieces and glue them together, but sometimes a vintage book page tears if you put it on your paper cutter. So I'm going to ink this. So like I was saying, I kept that in a vintage style, but this one will be retro but colorful and fun. I have some retro digitals here. You saw a whole bunch that were paper clipped here, and that's because I didn't make a selection. It took me forever to prep for this. It took me days of figuring out how much I wanted to do and all of that. So I'm actually limiting myself, and I'm probably taking too long with this first project here. So that'll go in there. Let's select an image to go on the front. That big one would be fun. She loves her Tide, and she loves her iron. I don't think so. I think I might go with this one. She's using whatever this cleaner is to clean her bathroom mirror. And I also pulled this one. I thought that was cute, and I would embellish with, these are all digitals. Buttons, a little thimble. So that would be a cute pocket, but I'm going to go with this lady cleaning her bathroom mirror. I feel like I'm not doing a great job here. After I glued that to the book page, I scored it to fold it. But you could probably figure that out. I got my hair cut the other day. It's still long, but quite a bit shorter. And she blew it dry. I asked her to blow it out because I knew it would be shorter than I wanted it to once it curled up. The shorter it is, the curlier it is, so it would look really short. And it's not that I mind short hair is what I'm trying to say. It's just that my hair is uncontrollable if it's too short. And I'm not the kind to spend a lot of time styling. So I think I might straighten it, because when she blew it out, it's straight now. But it makes the layers look really cool. So I think I will straighten it for a while. I like that pocket. I don't wash my hair every day, so I haven't washed it yet. I'm washing it this evening. My hair is dry, so I wash it every 3 days. You don't need to know all those things, but I'm just chatting. Just saying I haven't washed it yet, so I don't know how it looks curly. But I usually don't like it. If it's too short and curly, I don't like it. But it really needed to be cut. And then I had this library pocket, and because I was using green ledger, this really doesn't want to stay down. That book page really made it stiff. I think I glued 2 of the book pages together, which I probably didn't need to do. Because I use a green ledger, I used this little scrap that had some green stitching and a green stamp. These were just little snippets, but they look cute. And then I also have these that I forgot about. See if I want to add one of these. Or I could add it up here. You won't see it till you take the card out of the pocket. Yeah, let's do that. I'm not going to do a lot of decorating on all of these projects because I won't have time. But like I said, I'm giving you the basic ideas, and then you can run with them and do your own embellishing and variations. Because as I worked, I kept thinking of different variations I could do. Just don't have time to do it all. So there are 2 of the shorter library pockets. You can make them whatever size you want. Now I'll try to quickly do this one. Again, I just did the measurements like I did before. And this is 6 3/8 by 3 1/4 if you want to know. And looks like I cut this paper 3 this way by 3 3/4 and then folded it whatever needed to be folded. I don't remember how well, here, I didn't fold much. And again, I used the book page. I added a scrap of a scrapbook paper, which I thought was really pretty. And then this little scrap of lace. And here is where the ledger comes in on the back. And I used the vintage ledger. So I don't want to embellish that. Maybe that's why I had those little green pieces out. There they are. I could add one of these. There is some empty space here. Something like that would be just fine. And then I took a dried flower. These were in the batch of the tote full of things that my nephew's wife gave me. So I took one out of here and just I glued it down, and then I put a very light coating of Mod Podge over it so it would stay put. I already inked around this. I cut this a little too narrow, I think, because I had to use very skinny edges. Might be hard to get them to lay down there for a bit. I'll hold it down. So yeah, I woke up with vertigo the other day, and I just got out of bed and almost fell over. It doesn't happen very often, but it has happened quite a few times. But it's usually a long time in between episodes. My mother has vertigo a lot, and doctors can't really help her with it. So that's pretty much done. I don't really want to add anything down here to cover. I think that's just really pretty. So that's a nice simple one. And it looks like I might have had plans to make a tall one out of that, but I'm not going to. So you can just take these ideas and use whatever kind of ledger you want to use and decorate them the way you like. But I think they're really fun library pockets. The next project is something smaller, more like an embellishment. I took my ledger and glued it to some scraps of cardstock like this. I had these little strips of ledger to use. And I glued them to cardstock, and then I punched them out. So, and some of the newer ones I didn't even glue to cardstock, but these fragile ones I did. So I just punched a whole bunch of these green ones. Those are the new ones. And then this is one of the antique pieces. When I had scraps, of course I didn't want to throw the little scrap pieces away. I made sure I got the edge with the letters on that one. Looking for my little scissors. Oh, there they are. Because it didn't punch very well. This is old paper. That was one of the old ledgers. And this is a sturdier paper, and it had the newspaper glued to the back, so that was nice and sturdy the way it was. So I've got new ones and old ones. And we can do a couple of different things with these pieces. First, we can make paper clips. It's right at the edge of that flower. There we go. That is a fun paper clip. And here's another one. It goes on this side. Because I stamped a word on it, which you can't really read. Oh, no, it doesn't. It goes on this side. It says perfection. It's stamped in red, but you can't really read it because of the dark writing behind it. And one more. Those are paper clips that I made. Those are made with the old ledger. And I added a punched circle. It was a scrap, and that stamped piece. This one I just stamped on top of it, and this one I stamped on top of it. So we can make paper clips, and we can also make little clusters. And I have some little embellishments here to add to clusters if I want to. These are stamped little circles there. And I have some already ready to go to be made into clusters. So the problem, and these are all made with the antique ones. The problem with them is you don't want to cover up that, at least not all of it, or most of it even. So you kind of want to build behind it. So this is a smaller one. These are bigger. You could make a bigger cluster, of course. I have this little piece that was already cut out. And so that's nice, and it's a bright, more modern looking flower with this antique piece. But I just want to offset that, and then offset that piece, and then I can add a cutout number to it, and I think that would be a fun embellishment. Little cluster. So it's kind of fun to interpose the modern with the very old. If you don't want to do these projects with ledger paper, maybe you have some really cool looking book pages, old book pages that you could do this with text. Probably not with illustrations. So with this, I would just glue that down to a page or staple it to a page as a little embellishment. This one is a bigger piece, and I had this piece that was punched. Somebody sent me a bunch of these different shapes in a Happy Mail, so that would help add some color behind it. And then I am going to cover that. Now I questioned whether I should do that because it's covering up most of the writing, but you still get the look of it. And I like that with the green behind it. This is a little flower that Nancy from Wishes and Weeds made. I bought a packet of them from her quite a long time ago. She doesn't have them in the shop anymore. I don't think. I shouldn't say that because maybe she does. I don't know. It's Wishes and Weeds store on Etsy. She always does have nice things in her shop. So I am going to just glue that down there. There's 2 layers of fabric on this flower and then the button hand sewn on. And that makes a really cute embellishment. And then lastly, I have another vintage one, antique one, and I wanted to leave most of that exposed, so I thought I would punch out a shape to put behind it. And I had this piece that I pulled out of my die cut stash. It's going to cover up a little bit. And then a letter. Actually, I think I had the letter in the middle like that. So it does cover up some, but you have all of that up there still exposed. And I thought that was a fun embellishment. I'm going to ink around this. But think of all the fun things you could do with the newer ledgers too, with Paperclips and embellishments, clusters. You can use dies. I didn't use dies. I just used punches that I had right here in my craft room. These are an old, I forgot the name of the game that these letters came from. Anagram. It's an anagram game that I got at a flea market. Maybe I want it like that. Let's see. I have a hard time using letters in my pieces because you think they need to stand for something. And numbers, you don't really think that when you see it. It's just a number. So this is what I grabbed out of my baggie. And I didn't reach for it on purpose, even though it's my initial for my first name. I just wanted to just grab a random letter. Okay, so for the punches and die cuts, these are all punches. We have paper clips and clusters. And look at all the more I can make. Next is, I think it's another small one. Yep, number 3, we're going to make labels. I have this set of stamps, the labels, so I use them. Tim Holtz has some sets that have labels in them. I think label stamps are popular now, so you can probably find label stamps quite easily, I think. They might be in a set with other pieces. So I just took scraps of ledger, these skinny pieces that got cut off, and stamped labels. As you can see, I have to cut some of them out. And you could stamp a little picture. I didn't do that. Like I said, I had too many ideas and not enough time, but I did stamp some words. There's a definition there from Stampin' Up, and just a phrase, a word, and some numbers, or leave them plain and just add them to collages and pages. So I just cut out a few of these. The rest I'll have to cut out later. Look at the little teeny ones. It's adorable. I would make a cute little accent on some sort of a collage. And I liked the yellow ledger. I think I used that yellow ledger in my last journals that I made, and these were the cut-off pieces. So that's number 3. We did that fast. Corner pockets. Well, you could make any kind of pocket with a ledger page, but I didn't do regular pockets. I just did a couple of corner pockets, and of course I could have made a ton of these in all different styles. This is a really tall, kind of a narrow one, but you could definitely make a shorter corner pocket, make it wider, make it however you want. And of course I glued it to cardstock. So that's one of the vintage ones, and I added the little strip of that antique measuring paper. And this is a digital rickrack, and this is one of Nancy's flowers too. It was just a solid color fabric with a button on it. So that can be glued into a corner and have something put in there. And then there are the Rita Donnelly flips. You just cut a square. I think this is 4 inches. Yeah, that's a 4-inch square. And then you just fold it in half diagonally. And that would be corner of a pocket, corner of a page, and tuck something in there, and then you can open it up and write in here also. And these are also digital pieces, but you can use whatever you have on hand. Book illustrations, vintage pieces. You could doodle on it. You could use real laces and trims and rickracks. I'm just using some of the pieces I have on hand. These were quick and easy because they were already cut out. You could add a little piece of lace behind there. And because this is the newer ledger, I don't mind, collaging a bunch of stuff on it. This one I used minimal, skinny little pieces. I didn't really want a piece that big, but I might like it. That could hang off the bottom of the page. Yeah, I think I like that. So you can see there are so many ways you can go with these, and I just had all these ideas that I wanted to make and show you, and then I just realized I can't do all of it. So I'm leaving it to your imagination. I would love it if you would send me pictures of some of these projects, the way you translate them. Got some glue where it doesn't belong. So that's 2 pockets, just a triangle corner pocket and then the flip pocket. So they're both fun ideas. And of course, you could make a side pocket, a long side pocket, or just a square pocket at the bottom of your page, or a little pocket just glued onto a page, but you would probably have to back it. This one is okay for the flip pocket. But if it was any of the other kinds of pockets, I would probably reinforce it with cardstock. Next, we're going to do some envelopes. And again, so many options. I just took, well, let me show you on this one because I didn't sew this one yet. I just took a piece of ledger, and this is vintage, but it's not extremely fragile, so I can fold it. And I just folded it into whatever size I wanted. I think I might make this a little shorter though. Yeah, I like that better. I rounded the corners of the flap. And I don't have this go all the way up. In fact, this is a little higher than I normally do because I like to be able to get in there and get the item out. I'm going to trim that. So this is about the easiest pocket you can, or envelope you can make. Just a rectangular piece and fold it. And then you can glue the sides or sew the sides. Here you can see that I sewed the sides. I inked around it. And this is another example of using bright modern things on a vintage paper. So these are things I pulled out of my embellishment stash. This I've had for a long time with the bright colors and this quote, "It's a fantastic day to be fabulous," and I thought she went well with it because she is fabulous. And then I thought I would put these little pieces on the front. Just let them hang out there. But there's a lot of white, so I'm going to have to ink them because there's a white background here. Gotta hurry because I have one more project after this. These were die cuts, and they've been in my stash. I made a whole bunch of die cut pieces with scraps and then layered them and used a brad, but these were leftover pieces. So I'll probably use a brad on these. Yeah, that looks better. I mean, it didn't have to be inked because I wasn't going for vintage with these. I was going for the modern look in contrast to this, but it just looked like they were blending into the background too much. If I had punched them out of a more colorful fabric that didn't have paper that didn't have all the white in it. So I'm not going to go get my brad because I want to show you. I have to do this envelope and I have one more project to show you. So I would get a brad and, you know, poke a little hole. Well, no, I wouldn't even poke a hole in that. I would just put these together with the brad and then just glue them down to that. And that is a fun envelope that you can tuck into a pocket or paper clip to the edge of a page. So for this one, I will ink it and I will sew it, but this one I'm going to keep vintage. So I pulled this out of my stash of ephemera. This was just stamped on coffee dyed paper. I wanted to keep it all pretty neutral colored. And this was stamped on vellum with blue ink, navy blue, and it's a bus ticket. And then I have this gentleman. Now he was stamped on white paper, so I think I will just lightly rub some of this color on him. And just do this little collage here. And I might sew that. I have brown thread in my sewing machine. So I think it would look nice if I sewed these two pieces on and then glued him before I sew the envelope together. And then I have this that I stamped onto a vintage little piece of paper. I just pulled all of these stamped pieces and die cut pieces out of my embellishment stash, or ephemera stash. And I will just put this here. I probably won't sew it because this is a thin, fragile paper. I could just glue that there. So there's that. A couple of envelopes, and of course you could have a lot of fun doing different shapes of envelopes and using the newer ledger paper and bright colors and just having all kinds of fun. This is something I could have done a whole video on, all the envelopes. The last thing is, oh, wait a minute. I wonder if this was supposed to be on there somewhere. I'm going to keep it there in case I want to add it. The last thing is a tag pocket. So I don't have one cut to show you, to demonstrate. So this one I'm just going to talk about. I used cardstock, and this is a piece of Tim Holtz paper. And this is cut 3.5 by 7, I think. Yep, this is 3.5 by 7. You can make it whatever size you want. It's very, very simple. So I cut my background piece, and then I cut the next piece of cardstock the same width, and then just kind of made a marking where I wanted, like how wide I wanted that little lip to be, and how far I wanted the pocket to go. And then I'll just demonstrate how I cut that. Okay, so if I want it to be that wide, that is one of my starting points. And then this one is going to go right to the edge, so that's my ending point. And then I line that point and that point up on the cutting line. Well, first I'm going to trim it to the right height. That way you can see your starting point if you don't cut it off. So this is right on the cutting line, and I have to turn that so that is on the cutting line, and then I have to come back and make sure this one stayed on the cutting line. Sometimes you just have to go back and forth till you have them both on the cutting line. And then once you close it, you can actually see the wire and see you might have to make an adjustment. And now this isn't an exact measurement, so it doesn't really matter. And there you go. That's your cut piece. So after I had my base pieces cut, I cut the scrapbook paper to match it. I glued it into the center and then stitched around it. And did the same with my, I glued this piece to the back side of my ledger paper. Figured out what kind of writing I wanted, and then glued this to the back and then cut around it. And then I sewed here and here, the part that remains open, and then laid it down on my card and then sewed all the way around, which attached the pocket. Oh, and I added this. This is a vintage tea card or cigarette card. So I sewed that on before I sewed the pocket on, obviously. And then this is a alterations tag that just fits in here. So, and I didn't do anything to that except ink it. So there we go. Those are the projects I had written down to show you. There's a tag pocket, some envelopes, some corner pockets. I better attach these to this envelope so they don't get lost. Corner pockets, two different types. Some are made with vintage ledger, some are made with new ledger, stamped labels. Oh, I put the rest over here. Some embellishments. I call them embellishments when I mean to say clusters, but they are embellishments. Some paper clips that are really fun. And library pockets. Who doesn't love library pockets? And it would be great to have a bunch of these in your stash in all different styles, so you have just what you need when you need it. I had a lot of fun coming up with these ideas and executing them for you. I hope you enjoyed watching, and I hope it spurred your imagination. As you're watching me, you're thinking, oh, I could do this and run off in a different direction with it. So I hope that it helped spark some imagination in you. And now I'm going to clean up this mess so I can get to work on my next journal project. I can't wait to share it with you. I'll see you soon. Have a creative day today. Bye-bye.